There's fish. Oh, this is a nice fish. We can get it up here. Okay, come here. Got it. Whew. See ya. Hey there, guys. Today I'm going to talk about my 3 favorite kayak salmon rods. Now there's going to be 2 recurring themes in these top 3 rods. One is that I prefer not to use graphite rods, so I overwhelmingly prefer glass and composite rods, which I'll talk about more. And the other is I generally prefer rods under 9 feet. The reason I do that is I feel like it's a lot easier to net fish. We have these long leaders, and then these big flashers, and then bumpers and droppers. There's a lot of geometry at play here, and a really long rod just makes it harder to bring those fish close. It's already difficult to bring fish close with all of that trailing behind. So I really prefer those shorter rods. Some kayak anglers actually prefer longer rods, but I just don't. I find I can get fish in the net a lot easier. So let me get these deployed, get trolling, and then we'll go over my top 3 rods. I'm going to talk about a budget rod, a sort of mid-priced quality glass rod that is a little bit longer, and then I'm going to talk about my favorite short rod. So this is a 7-foot rod. So I'm going to kind of cover that breadth of personal choice that you might like or need. Okay, the first rod I'm going to talk about is Shimano's TDR rods. These are my favorite budget rods because they retail for $30. That is it. It's a remarkably good salmon stick for 30 bucks. And if you're looking at saving some money or just getting into it and not sure if it's something you want to do long term, then this is a great rod. I prefer the 8.6 medium heavy. It has a 15 to 30 pound line rating. You can find this rod. There's a whole series of rods in the TDR, which stands for trolling downrigger. There's a whole series of rods here that you can find down to 8 foot in length up to 9.5 foot length and longer, so you can really dial in that preferred length that you want. But you can see this is a full flex rod. It's got a full glass blank, so it can flex very deep into the rod. It has a lot of power, and I really like that for a couple reasons. One, obviously, is I like to troll these flashers, and you want to be able to see that tip move up and down. You want that flexible tip because it lets you see that you're actually fishing correctly, and it also helps to take up some of the slack when fish are running towards you. So that is one of the reasons why I prefer the glass and composite rods, is I think you get a better action on the tip, especially in these suspended Chinook fisheries where we're trolling pro trolls. Just lets you see that action on the flasher, or if you're going to troll mag lips or any kind of other plugs for Chinook, it lets you see that action as well. But another reason I prefer glass rods is that because of the length of the rods and the length of all that gear, anglers have a tendency to high stick. That is, they'll choke up on the rod, they'll usually grab up in front of there, and they'll lift that rod tip trying to bring that salmon in towards the boat. And if you high stick with a graphite rod, you're going to overload it. It's just going to snap. So glass and composites are a lot more forgiving with high sticking. Another nice thing about the TDR rods, they've got a very large foregrip. And like all kayak anglers, I tend to grip up on the rod. I'll put my hand here, and then I'm going to lift up like this and bring my net down. And by doing that, I'm preventing it from high sticking. I'm just letting the rod load like this. It full flexes, so it swings the fish in towards me. And with that foregrip, it lets me do that very easily. And I feel like I can control the fish better. So that's a common theme in all the rods that I will feature today, is that they have a relatively large foregrip. The TDRs have EVA foam grips, so they're relatively cheap, but they are durable. I've had mine in and out of rod holders for years, and they don't tend to chip up that bad. It does not have a trigger, which is one of the things I don't like about it, because you can't really grip up on the rod when you're fighting fish or when you're letting your gear down. It has a number of guides distributed throughout here, so you get a good distribution and a nice flex in the rod. It's not a cheaply made rod, it's just inexpensive. I feel like it's a really good value rod, and it's a great sturgeon stick too if you're looking for a sturgeon rod. And lastly, like I said, it's $29.99, so if you do break it, which I've never broke one, or you lose it over the side because you flip your kayak or something, it's not something that you're going to be really devastated by. Okay, the next rod I'm going to talk about is this rod here. This is the Lambo Glass Classic Glass downrigger rod, 8'2". Now they have an 8'6" model, a little bit longer, a little more backbone if you're looking for something like that. But I really like the action on this rod. It's got a ton of backbone, but a very soft tip. You can see it flexes very well, but there's all that power down here at the base. Now they've recently redone this rod and re-released it under a new name and different color. It's now called the Battle Glass rod. So it's gray instead of sort of this burnt orange maroon color, but it's essentially the same rod, same blanks and everything. But they did actually make it a little bit better in that they added a double locking reel seat at the front here, so you don't have to worry about checking this all the time, and which I'm always checking mine. They're always loosening up. Just the vibrations of trolling loosens those things up. It's $110, so it makes you wonder, why would I get this rod over the TDR rod? And there's a couple reasons. Obviously, one, that locking reel seat is a big difference. It's got cork handles, so some people prefer those. Some people might prefer the foam, but it is substantially lighter. It's a lot easier to fight the fish on this one. It's got that trigger right there, so it has a little bit more of an advantage. The TDRs are two-piece rods, and as is this one, so you still have that portability of a two-piece rod. Now, formerly the Classic Glass rods had a lifetime warranty. I'm not sure if the Battle Glass rods will. They had no information on Lambo Glass's website. Lambo Glass has slipped a little bit in its customer service over the past few years, but the 8'2" downrigger rod's still a favorite of mine. Like I said, it's got these long handles. It's got a sizable enough foregrip that I can grab it, lift up, and fight the fish when I'm fighting them. I also feel like you get a little bit more sensitivity with this rod. You can really feel the fish a little bit better than on the TDR rods from Shimano. But a solid choice for somebody looking for an all-glass rod with a little bit higher end features. Now, one of my favorite rods is this rod here, and this is the Shimano Travala jigging rod, 7-foot light. Now, this rod is very different than all of the other rods that I featured today. It has a foam grip. It's a little bit denser foam than on the Shimano TDRs, but it's very durable. I've had this rod for, I think now 6 years, and it's gone in and out of the rod holder many hundreds, if not thousands of times with really no loss of material. But it's different from the other rods that I had featured earlier in that it's a composite blank, so it's actually a graphite blank on the inside, spiral wrapped in glass. So that makes it a lot lighter than the other two rods that I featured, and that's what I really like about it. It's a very lightweight rod, 7 foot long, so it's my shortest rod that I use for salmon trolling. But as you can see, it's got that full flex. It's designed for jigging. It's a very powerful rod. I don't have to worry about breaking it. It has a trigger, so that's nice for when I'm releasing line or fighting fish. It helps to stabilize the whole setup in my hand. It has a large foregrip that I can use when netting fish. It's a single piece rod, so it's got a lot of sensitivity and power. You can still see the action of the dodgers on the tip because it's a light. It's rated 10 to 30 pounds, just like the TDR is. Yeah, it's my absolute favorite trolling rod for kings. It's also a great nearshore bottom fish rod when I'm kayak fishing for lings and rockfish, and it does a superb job at landing albacore as well. This retails for about 120 bucks, but you can find them on sale pretty frequently at different times of the year. If you have any questions about kayak salmon rods, just let me know in the comments section below. I will put links to all of the rods featured in today's video. And I'll see you next time out on the water. Just remember, fish smarter, not harder. Bye, guys.